Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation will come to order. This is our hearing on our blue economy, successes, and opportunities. I'm glad to be here today with my colleague and friend, Ranking Member Cantwell, to discuss the topic of the blue economy. This is an issue that is vitally important to her state and my state and to the rest of the United States. I'm particularly pleased to have this panel of witnesses today, including my dear friend of a number of decades, Governor Phil Bryant of Mississippi. He and I began our service together as state legislators back in the early 90s. He has served as state auditor since then, lieutenant governor, and is now in his 8th year as governor of Mississippi. So, Phil, we are delighted to have you here, and thank you for your public service. We're also joined by Mr. Scott Deal, President and CEO of Maverick Boats. Mr. Deal has not only built one of the premier boat companies in the world, he's been recognized for his leadership in marine conservation efforts. And also we welcome Mr. Michael Conathan, Executive Director of the Aspen Institute's High Seas Initiative. He's a former staff member of the Commerce Committee under our friend and former colleague, Senator Snowe. The impact of the oceans on our economy is everywhere. In Mississippi, we move 25 million tons of goods through the port of Gulfport every year, and those goods end up throughout the nation and the world. A hurricane that hits the Gulf Coast can have a crippling effect on energy prices, delayed freight, and economic damage throughout the country. I recently spent 2 nights in Seattle, the home state of my colleague and ranking member, and it was wonderful and impressive to look out over the Puget Sound and see all of that commerce moving through there, and it just continues to grow. In the last Congress, my colleagues and I worked to grow the blue economy by leading the Modern Fish Act and the Commercial Engagement Through Ocean Technology Act, or C-Note, both of which were enacted into law and signed by the President. Today, we will ask all of our witnesses to address what the federal government can do to ensure our federal waters work for all sectors and use them. Over the years, I've heard complaints from recreational fishermen about how they had been an afterthought for federal fisheries managers. Our nation's fisheries law, the Magnuson-Stevens Act, was established to manage commercial fisheries. It's no surprise then that a management system designed for commercial activity did not work for recreational fishermen who want to spend more time on the water, not catch their quota as quickly as possible. The Modern Fish Act requires the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to be more responsive to the needs of our recreational fisheries. It allows for the use of additional management tools like extraction rates, fishing mortality rates, and harvest control rules. We'll certainly be providing oversight to the administration as they develop the ways to implement the Modern Fish Act. I hope Mr. Deal will address the Modern Fish Act and other issues important to recreational fishermen in his testimony and responses to questions. In addition, our oceans are woefully under-observed. That's why I've advocated for the strategic use of unmanned maritime systems. These systems are a cost-effective way to bring about a dramatic increase in the number of ocean observations NOAA obtains. Unmanned maritime systems serve a valuable role when the mission is too dangerous, dull, or dirty for human crews. For example, knowing the water temperature below the surface is critical for predicting how quickly a hurricane will intensify. Getting these measurements is a job for unmanned systems. The C-Note Act encourages NOAA to think strategically and comprehensively about incorporating unmanned maritime systems. I hope Governor Bryant and our other witnesses will address how we can harness marine technology, particularly when it comes to oceans, observations, and data collection. Observations are also critically important for our nation's increasingly busy ports, where aging infrastructure and frequent changes in wind, tide level, and current make navigation a tricky business. I'd like to hear from our witnesses about what the federal government can do to provide ports with real-time information on weather and tides and to support the efficient movement of freight. And we had some big successes last Congress, and I can assure you this is a topic that is vitally interesting to this chairman and this ranking member. And we think there's more to do. I look forward to working with Senator Cantwell and the rest of the members of this committee as we continue to develop legislation to advance the blue economy in the 116th Congress. So thank you to our witnesses, and I now turn to my friend and ranking member, Senator Cantwell, for her opening statement.
Thank you.